How's it going, guys? Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Phil Talk Sports Podcast. It is Super Bowl weekend. It's finally upon us. You'll probably hear this on a Friday, so we'll be a few short days away from the big game. I'm your host, Phil Nunziata, joined as I have been on this road to Tampa Bay by Nick Rice and Robert Dieters. How's it going, guys? The big game is almost here.
Yeah, we're about here, but I'd say the biggest thing is we're so glad to have Robert with us, another part of our fixture of our playoff coverage.
Yeah, thank you so much, Phil, for having me on for another week. It's going to be an exciting game, a lot to talk about. Is Tom Brady going to get his seventh ring? Is Pat Mahomes going to go back-to-back? That's the big question we have going on here today. But, man, I'm excited. Super Bowl again. By the way, did I mention Tom Brady went to my high school? Just got to throw that out there.
Robert is contractually obligated to mention that on every podcast we do. But no, Nick, you're right. Rob has been absolutely clutch as we've been going through this, and we're happy to have him. And even after this run ends, if there's an episode where he's not here, don't worry. He's not going away. He'll be back in another couple episodes once we have a three-man conversation we want to have. So, Robert, thanks for being here one last time. While we make this run, before we get into the game itself, we got a lot to talk about. You hit a lot of the storyline points already. Is Brady going to get his seventh? Is Mahomes going to go back-to-back? And a lot of people are saying, would that put him on that Tom Brady trail to have two Super Bowls at the age of 25? That's kind of where Brady was at his era. So people always got to compare someone to Brady, and Mahomes would be the only one. What I want to talk about is there was a big what to do about Tampa playing this game in Tampa. They're the first team ever. You've heard it a lot this week, that they're the first team to play the Super Bowl in their home stadium. That being said, they're actually the away team in this game. And what I mean by that is they're wearing white. They're wearing the away jerseys, which is not a huge deal. I think that's, you wear what you wear. It is what it is. They will be dressing in the visitors' locker room. I don't think a lot of people knew that until a day or two ago, which has got to be weird for them. They must walk in there and be like, oh, that's what this place looks like. I doubt they've ever seen it. Why would you go to the visiting side of your own stadium? And the more controversial thing that's come up in the local area down here is the cannons will not fire when the Buccaneers score, which people are pretty pissed about for whatever reason. But those are just some of the weird things that are going to the quote-unquote home team that aren't really the home team this year.
Yeah, that's fascinating. One other potential home field advantage element was that apparently the Chiefs team was getting haircuts a couple days ago, and there was a barber that had COVID, and they waited until midway through the haircut for them to finally figure out he had COVID. It almost makes you wonder, what is he doing? Not cutting hair during a positive test.
Yeah.
What made him took so long? So who knows if that makes any impact? I'm not hearing anything, so I'm sure both teams will be fine. But still, just some sort of a pregame hype to kind of get these players a little freaked out about their COVID situation, I'm sure.
I mean, you had to sneak one more COVID story in there before just in case we all forgot for a minute. But no, from what I hear, it was he had only cut the hair of two players. He actually stopped mid-cut of the third. The first two have been quarantined. The third guy has already come back negative. Yeah, that was a funny story to read for sure, but I don't think it's going to affect anything. He wasn't cutting Pat Mahomes' hair or anything. He's not sitting out the Super Bowl. But yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Well, big storyline with them being the away team in this whole scenario, but they still get a home field advantage by playing in Tampa Bay, regardless of the cannon not going off because of a touchdown. Maybe it brings them momentum. But the interesting part I think I really want to touch up is healthcare workers are going to be the fans in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And that really does show a lot from the NFL. It shows that they care about their frontline workers. They want them to see this game because of all the hard work they have done. And I'm really happy to see that there's going to be 25,000 fans. I'm correct, right, Phil?
Yep.
Okay, 25,000 fans
and
is going to
about
be in attendance.
7,000 or so is going to be healthcare workers. Essentially, third of the stadium will be healthcare workers. So it is definitely cool to see that the NFL, they could have tried to sell them all, but to give it to that, I think it's mostly too people that are administering the vaccine, which is of course a big thing going on right now. So that'll be cool, and you know what? It gets people in those seats that even in a normal year, the normal life they live, maybe couldn't afford one. So you're going to have 7,000 people that are going to get an experience that they would have maybe not got otherwise. The people that are buying these other seats, I think $12,000 is like the cheapest seat. They're buying it regardless. And, good for you for going, but for these people, it's going to be Yeah, 12,000 is, but for these people, these healthcare workers that get to go, it's definitely, regardless if they're a fan of either team, it's going to be the experience of a lifetime. And, we're going to see a lot of cool, like, vlogs and videos and pictures and stuff on social media from these people. And it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, and just also just touch up with the Buccaneers having away jerseys on. It's going to look different. I know it's not going to be normal for them, but the way you look at the end of the day, you're still in your stadium. You're the first team to be playing in the Super Bowl that you are hosting. So congratulations to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for making a big headline and marking a day in history.
Yeah, and like you said, once you get on the field, it's not going to matter that they dressed in the visitor locker room or that they're wearing white. They're going to feel for the 22,000 that are in there. It's always been said the Super Bowl, we've never had the home field do it, but regardless, it's always a different feel of a crowd, no matter how many of your fans are in there. It's more of a corporate setting. It's usually, you don't get that same type of feel, but it'll be different here with the Bucs and the limited fans. It's going to be something that, safe to say, we'll never see again. Going into this game, I've gone back and forth on predictions, and you can't go wrong. Both these teams, the Bucs are the team that got hot at the right time, and you could honestly say that about the Chiefs because they've, as I've been the one to say, walked through a lot of the year and really woke up, I feel like, midway through that Buffalo game, and they're playing as good as they've played all year. We know how good they were last year, the defending champs. Is also the first time that a Super Bowl will have two quarterbacks that won the past two Super Bowls facing off. Because obviously Brady won that stinker against the Rams, and then the Chiefs and Niners from last year. Not to bring it up, Rob. But I don't know who wants to start. Nick hasn't gotten to speak here in a while. I will have him kick it off with the predictions on, if I'm sure you've had plenty of time to think about it, who are you picking to take home Super Bowl 55?
Well, the confetti is not going to be Niner red, but it won't be Philly green or won't be Charger blue this year. So we all have to admit that this is something that, to some degree, once the playoffs started, seemed a little bit inevitable. Not so much the Bucs, but certainly the Chiefs, unless they had some sort of hiccup. Kansas City was going to win this, win the AFC, and they did. It was pretty convincing fashion, very impressive how they are able to sleepwalk through quarters of games like 9-0 to Buffalo and then wake up and like the snap of a finger. Their best offensive game of all the teams they did it against was against Tampa Bay. 547 yards, just incredible what they did. But I have to admit, guys, since the first week of the season, I predicted this to be the matchup. And that prediction, I thought Kansas City would win the game. We're going to go a little more in depth on it, but just as a quick, homage to my first point, I believe that Kansas City does indeed win the game. But we'll get into it for sure.
Yeah, it's a good way to do it, Rob. We'll jump to you. We'll just give our picks, and then we'll give our rebuttals, if you will, afterwards.
All right. Well, you see a jersey behind me. The man has done it 6 times and has won. This is his 10th time. I think he's going to go 7-10. I got to go Tampa Bay. I think Tom Brady is just the magic man. He's got that offense. He knows how to get it done. Leonard Fournette has been literally a playoff running back. I don't know how else to explain it, but he's done a lot better than Ronald Jones. He stepped up and has really helped Tom Brady when he has needed him the most. So I'm going to go with my pick, and I'm going to stand by it. The visiting team itself, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
It's funny you mentioned Fournette because people don't think of him as a guy with playoff experience, but he was on that team that Jacksonville had that went to the AFC Championship. So up to the Super Bowl, he's been there before. And you're right, I think it showed through these playoffs. So he's someone that, we're going to talk about sleeper picks and surprise stars for the Super Bowl. He could be one of them. But as far as the winner for this game, I'm looking at it from two ways. One, I'm picking Kansas City for the reason of no matter if the Bucs start fast, and that's what you think they would want to do, no amount of points is going to be enough to scare Kansas City. We've seen them come back time and time again, and I also can't get out of my head Tom Brady's his best attempt to throw the game against Green Bay with those late game interceptions. If you do that against Kansas City, there's no chance that they're not turning those into points, and not just points, touchdowns. So based on what I saw from Brady late in that game and what I've seen from Kansas City the past 2 years, it's going to be tough. I'm going Kansas City. I also can't go Tampa because I'm betting against them every game into the playoffs so far. So if I pick them, and they lose, then I'm a jinx, and I don't want to be a jinx. So I'm going to stick with Kansas City. I'm going to stay consistent because if you should be one thing, you should be consistent, and I'll go against Tampa Bay.
Yeah. There's only really two examples I can think of in Super Bowl history where a team that just had an overwhelming amount of firepower loses the game to a hard nose, to a ground and pound, football team. And I know Tampa has Tom Brady, but to be honest, they are a excellent defensive team, and they can certainly punish you inside with the size they have, running back, tight end, and up front. And the two examples I have, 1990, when the Buffalo Bills lost their first of four straight to the New York Giants, who just controlled the clock. And then 2007, when the Patriots were unbeaten and the New York Giants controlled the clock then too. And of course, won it with David Tyree. I don't see a David Tyree and I don't see an Otis Anderson on the Tampa Bay roster. And to be quite honest, Kansas City is something I don't think we've ever seen before. They are a 14-2 team, but they are a team that sleptwalked to 14-2. I just think this firepower is way too much. And it also was a bit concerning that Tampa, who really got torched deep in the last meeting earlier this season, might have both of their safeties either limited or out, which is a major, major concern.
I will mention before Rob jumps back in, that first game you mentioned, the Buffalo and New York game, also played in Tampa Bay. So it's funny how the stars aligned with that. I can't tell you about I'll have to look up that Giants-Patriots one. Is that the Arizona game?
Yeah, in Arizona, yeah.
Okay, there we go. So go ahead, Rob.
So I guess with defending my point with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have lost twice to the Saints going into this playoffs, and they learned their lesson. They got the win. They took out Drew Brees, and we all thought, well, Drew Brees has to have this amazing story where it's his last season. He's got to win this Super Bowl. Then he's done, and everyone's happy. No, that didn't happen. That Cinderella story did not happen. Drew Brees is gone. They learned from that. They still don't have a winning record against the Saints this season, including the playoffs. Lost to the Chiefs pretty badly. Tyreek Hill had the game of his life. I mean, he looked unstoppable in that game. I think the Buccaneers learn from that experience. They take it in against this team. Yes, Tom Brady did throw away almost that game against the Packers, but that defense didn't. And I think that's one thing the heart of that defense has. I think one player we really need to look at is the cornerback, Sean Murphy-Bunting. Sorry, my headset just kind of crackled a little bit. But 3 interceptions. He's been a top 3 defender this entire playoffs. Tom Brady is the GOAT. I mean, we could just say that right there. And I think Mahomes is becoming that future GOAT. And he is on the success of Tom Brady. I think we're going to see him in multiple Super Bowls. Could I say we could see him in 10 before 40? Possibly.
He's on track.
We could see him in that
stated.
many. He's on track. And if we're going to look statistically, he is the best quarterback going into this Super Bowl. But Tom Brady has had so much more experience. And something he has to prove in this game, he's not a system quarterback like he was with the Patriots. He's trying to prove that wrong by winning a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then you look at Patrick Mahomes, that's just trying to prove that he can win back-to-back Super Bowls. And I think they have a chance to three-peat, to make it back to another Super Bowl. Even if they do lose this one, which I believe they will, that they could come back and win their third one. But I'm going to give Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill so much credit. But I will say that run against the run, I know they don't really run the football as much. They have the top 3 worst run offense. And I think that's one stat to really throw out there. And I think Tampa Bay Buccaneers have figured out what they need to do to win this game with Chris Godwin. He figured out with Mike Evans. Antonio Brown has not been that much of a factor, but if he has that random Scotty Miller kind of pass touchdown, I think they have a really good shot of winning this game.
I mean, you mentioned the Murphy Bunting and player. Even though I have Kansas City as my pick to win, the surprise players that I have are actually both Buccaneers. I think Scotty Miller will make an impact in this game, similar to the Green Bay, because the guys you got to look out for between Brown and Godwin and Mike Evans, of course. And Scotty Miller will just make some plays underneath, and that's what Brady wants anyway. He wants to throw the ball 8 yards, not 18 yards. That's always been his game. That'll never change, no matter how much Bruce Arians yells at him to throw it deep. He's going to want that play he's going to want that play 12 times in the game. He might only get it 7, but he's going to be looking for that. So Scotty Miller is my guy on offense. And then for the Buccaneers defense, I actually have Jason Pierre-Paul, just a guy that's been there before. This is a very young defense, very talented defense, but these lights are not going to be too bright for him. Him and his 9 fingers are going to try to be all over Patrick Mahomes, and that is my big, veteran that, I don't know how much longer he has to play, so this could be his last big stance in what probably is a Hall of Fame career, especially if he gets his second ring.
Interesting. So I went with Buccaneers as well. None of these guys went to my former high school, unlike Tom Brady, and I went way off the board. Phil Nunziano went kind of off the board. I went way off the board. So the Buccaneers are dealing with injuries to both of their starting safeties. So I have the guy who played his first full game of his entire season, Mike Edwards, safety up from Kentucky. I had to Google him, to be quite honest. I didn't even know he played last week. So he is there. And I believe the other guy that's going to make an impact is Sammy Watkins from Georgia. He is a guy that seems to have been just completely under the limelight all year. You have to believe that they won't be man-to-man covering Tyreek Hill like last time, thinking he's going to run short and he doesn't quite have the speed to torch anybody. In fact, I'd love to see him run with Usain Bolt. I mean, I think that's a race. He is just that fast. So I have Sammy Watkins and Mike Edwards as my 2 surprise players. And to be quite honest, I wouldn't be surprised if both of them don't do much. I felt I really need to go off the board here. And I think those are 2 guys that could splash on Sunday.
Well, Tyreek Hill wants to race Scotty Miller at halftime. I don't know if we're going to make that happen, but I'm sure you guys heard the story where Scotty Miller claimed to be faster than Tyreek Hill. And he said, hey, we can line up at the 50 at halftime if you want and figure this out. I don't think we're going to get that. I'd love to see it. But if I do want to give a Kansas City, this isn't off the board, but it is at the same time. If for whatever reason, and this is an Andy Reid coach team, and what I mean by that is they only run to mix it up. It is not really part of the game plan. It's just to say that they ran a few times. Don't be shocked if maybe Le'Veon Bell is shown up a little bit more than he has in these playoffs. He's dressed in a couple games. He's barely played, but who knows? He could get one he could, break one for 40, and that's his only contribution to the game, but it'll be a big first down. Very possible. Just a guy that we know how talented he is. He's not broken down. He's still relatively young, but he hasn't played a lot, similar to what LaShawn McCoy did in like the middle of the season for the Chiefs last year. Obviously, he's now in the Buccaneers. That's another guy you can maybe look to catch a screen pass or 2. But if you're doing those Super Bowl bets where you need that random guy to make a touchdown, those are some of the guys I'd be looking at: Le'Veon Bell and LaShawn McCoy for sure.
Okay, so I think with my surprise pick, I think because we talk about Philly made a good point. Rushing wise, we made Le'Veon Bell such a target. Well, they have a new starting running back going in there in this Super Bowl compared to last Super Bowl because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I like Darrell Williams. I think the man just kind of stepped up in this role. Edwards-Helaire got hurt. He kind of took a step back from being in the playoffs. They didn't give him as much reps last game, and Darrell Williams really took it over. I get this isn't maybe the name that is going to be under the radar, but I feel like he can make a big time play here or there to be that surprising star when Mahomes isn't throwing the football very well on 1 or 2 drives, and Darrell Williams gets a couple nice first downs for that offense to keep moving the chains. So I can see Darrell Williams being that guy. I think Edwards-Helaire we're not going to see much of Edwards-Helaire going into the Super Bowl. I think they kind of were like, well, Darrell Williams is looking really good. Hardman has been looking pretty solid. They throw it off to Hardman once in a while, and they surprise. Yeah. I feel like Hardman could definitely be a guy that you can throw into the mix. I mean, he made a mistake, dropped the punt against Buffalo, and I don't know if you guys saw, but they were mic'd up, and Patrick Mahomes said, "Don't worry about it, man. We're gonna get a touchdown here." He made a big time play. He made 2 big plays, made a big time run, and got in the end zone. So Hardman could be that type of guy too that you could see making a big difference. I think with Tampa Bay, I'm gonna go Scotty Miller, man. I mean, I think he made the play against Green Bay to put the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I think that touchdown really defined them going to the Super Bowl. That mistake by Green Bay, and don't get me wrong, maybe Green Bay could have gone for that touchdown. It could have changed the game a little bit, but I feel like making a mistake on defense, letting Scotty Miller wide open. I mean, maybe not wide open, but, a little bit of coverage, but
Open enough.
open enough for Scotty Miller to make that catch with like, no difficulty whatsoever.
Mhm.
So I'm going to say Scotty Miller, and I guess I've been picking between Williams and Hardman. I think Williams is going to be that surprise because Hardman was the surprise last week. I think I'm going to go Williams into this week.
I agree. Williams has been very impressive through these playoffs. He's been the guy. He's not the guy they planned to have, but he's the guy that they got, and he's done, really well about it. These teams are loaded with talent when names like LaShawn McCoy and Le'Veon Bell are afterthoughts, and they might even be afterthoughts. These guys are at the bottom of the depth chart at their respective running back groups. So we're just going to have some really good ball players all over the field. I think it is time to give our score predictions. And while I've been pretty good at picking games all year, I'm terrible at scores, so I'm just going to throw some stuff out there. I'm going to give it a 28-21 Kansas City win.
Interesting. I'm gonna go Kansas City 25-22. That's a pretty unusual score. And the one other thing I want to add about this game is not so much about the X's and O's, but more so it's funny how sometimes these Super Bowls, they're so big that it completely changes the trajectory of teams over, a long period of time. I think if Tampa wins this football game, then a lot of people that may leave the team may stay. I think a lot of sometimes teams that lose the Super Bowl, they don't quite have that same mojo for the next year, a la, sorry, Robert, San Francisco from last year to this year. I don't quite get the feeling that Kansas City would fall off the cliff after a loss, but I think Tampa could. I think they really need to win this game to keep their mojo going, especially with, Tom Brady getting older and so many guys becoming free agents. Kansas City has a lot of guys locked up for 3-4 years. So this game feels like it's not just for the title, but it's for the next year or two for both of these teams.
Yeah, Rob made the point, win or lose for Kansas City, they're going to be the favorites in the AFC next year, regardless of what happens, unless I'm not even going to say unless injuries. I don't want to jinx anybody. I'm not going to say names, but if this team returns, 90% of this team returns, they're the favorites in the AFC anyway. So I had 28-21. You had 25-22.
Yeah, weird score.
Gotcha. Okay, and then go ahead.
I'm going to go. I got to go with the spread because of the 3, but I'm going to go 31-28 Buccaneers. I think this is going to be a close game. And I think the reason why I'm giving the Buccaneers, they have this is going to the away home field advantage. Does that sound kind of right? I mean, I got to go with that, but
Yeah,
an away home field type of vibe for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
The home field vibe, that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that they are in Tampa Bay for this Super. It's just wild. Like, we don't talk about. Obviously, I think I would change my pick if this wasn't at Tampa Bay, but I think I just have to give it because they're at Tampa Bay. Tom Brady, by the way, interesting thing to kind of throw out there is Tom Brady hasn't been home for 12 days. He saw his family on the 6th day. He's taking this preparation very seriously. And one thing, I was listening to Colin Cowher and Nick Wright. A lot of players, when they get older, they like to get more involved in things. They like to be maybe more involved in community, more involved in school, more involved in the social justice. You really don't see Tom Brady really going out of his way to do much other things, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. In a sense, he's taking this very seriously, and he, in his off season, he does what he does. But I think he's taking this preparation so seriously. He knows I feel like, as we said, like Tom Brady doesn't have as much a say as Patrick Mahomes, but Patrick Mahomes is still so young that even if he loses the Super Bowl, he's going to come back. But we see that Chiefs offense come back. And one interesting stat I do want to throw out there, 25-6 after the bye when the Chiefs do win. So the Chiefs are 25-6 after a bye.
Well, Andy Reid for his career is
Andy Reid.
I think he's had he has I think 3 losses after a bye in his whole career. So that is definitely something that one being
better than Belichick.
Yeah, better than Belichick after the bye. You mentioned the whole not being home. This happened. I remember this being talked about in the NBA bubble, which I'm sure you guys have covered on your podcast, the West Coast Heat Check basketball podcast that you guys do with Stephen Hughes, among other people. But some of the older players almost enjoy the solitude. Like some of the younger players, like, man, we're stuck in this bubble. We can't go anywhere. Some of the older players, like, man, I got 3 kids at home running around. This is a godsend. I get to relax. I get to focus on my game. So it really just depends where you are in life for all these players.
A bunch of avocado ice cream at home.
Oh,
So
yeah, for sure.
Tom Brady doesn't want to do that for 2 weeks.
So we had the scores too. I wanted to mention the over under for Super Bowl 55 is close to 55. It's actually 56. Me and Nick have the under. I had 49. You had 47. Rob has the over at 59 points. So just something to, if we were to bet the over under, and that's where our minds took us. So we got 2 unders and 1 over. Overall, it's going to be a great game. It's not one of those situations where, I have hatred for either team. I'm going to enjoy watching either. Much like last year, I had nothing against the Niners. I had Raheem Moser, New Smyrna Beach product, playing for San Francisco. I would have been cool with either team. I really feel that way this year too. And it's going to be a great game. And I think we can all sit and take a minute to realize that we didn't always think we were going to get here this year. We didn't know we were going to get a Super Bowl. We definitely didn't know we were going to get people at any capacity. So regardless of who's winning or losing in this game, just be happy that we're there. And if you're with people, be safe. And if you're at home enjoying it, just be happy that we got to this point.
Yeah. One other thing just about the Super Bowl. I feel like this could be the narrative about whether Brady or Mahomes is better or worse all time. Regardless of the result of this Super Bowl, I'm pretty sure we can agree that the script is still, the cement's still wet. There's still so much left to be determined. And I say that seeing Mahomes putting up ridiculous numbers, I will concede, because I'm a big Kelsey guy as well, as maybe the best tight end of the game, that he has an embarrassment of weapons likes that Brady I don't think has ever really had outside of maybe 1 or 2 years. So as far as who's the GOAT, I know it's fun to bring that up right now, but I don't think we know that yet. And we won't know that, I don't think, by Sunday.
Really, my last question, we'll start with Rob, because I don't know if you guys knew this. Tom Brady went to the same high school as Rob. But we'll start with this. From what I'm hearing, the win or lose in the Super Bowl is not affecting Brady. There's been almost no Brady retirement talk. I think he's coming back either way. I think he's at least going to do the 2 years of this current 2-year contract he has. He's talked about wanting to play to 45, but I don't think maybe in the moment if he wins, guys do whatever. But like, there's been almost zero retirement talk on Brady, so I don't think that's even a possibility right now.
No, not at all. Tom Brady wants to play till he's 45, which is, I don't know which team's going to really sign him out there, but maybe Tampa Bay keeps him until he's 45. If they win the Super Bowl, I can see Tampa Bay kind of keeping him around for maybe after his 2-year contract, maybe go a 1 and then like a team option for the next year to see how he's feeling, how he's doing. I don't know, but that's just something that could happen.
If he wins him a ring, I think Tampa will keep him as long as he's going to be there, even if they eventually decline. Like, if he's able to stay there for a few years, he becomes part of that culture. Like he more so than the guy he's often compared to, Joe Montana. His time with the Chiefs was fun, but it wasn't like monumental. Brady wins a ring and keeps him deep in the playoffs for another 2 years. That's monumental. That's a crazy 3-year run. That's almost a presidency amount of time that he'll have spent in Tampa Bay, and that'll be the difference, I think. So as long as he wins 1 there, it's funny that we're looking at it that way right now. This is going to be the best chance, because everybody only gets older next year. That might be good for the defense, but the offense is only going to get older in contracts and whatever. We got about 10 minutes left. I just got the warning up on the screen. I did want to touch on one other thing. The other big NFL news this week was some quarterbacks on the move. Detroit trading Matthew Stafford to the Rams, and they take Jared Goff and a plethora of picks with them. Just really quickly, I think Detroit won this trade. If they have to trade Stafford, and I'm a big Stafford guy, I think he's going to do well in LA. That's a conversation for another episode. But if Detroit had to trade him, which it seems they did, they got a plethora of picks. I'm not a big Goff guy. We've talked about that before, but he can be the quarterback in the meantime while you draft or get whoever else. So if he's their quarterback for the next year or two, while they get, somebody in this draft, maybe the kid from BYU or somebody else. But overall, I think Detroit did really well with this trade. And LA, they're going to have a very short window to make some noise here, but afterwards, I definitely see their decline coming with none of these, first round picks.
Yeah. I know that sounds crazy. I think the Rams got rid of a bunch of draft picks and a whole bunch of money to get the exact same player. Maybe Matthew Stafford has a few more touchdowns than Goff did his Super Bowl season. It's the same guy. I believe he needed to win more to really impress me. I mean, the Lions, I know all the time we hear they barely had any 100-yard rushers. He barely had any talent. But, I mean, have the Rams ever had Calvin Johnson? Have the Rams ever had Marvin Jones, who's a really nice receiver? I know they didn't have Sean McVay at coach, and they now have a guy that's eating kneecaps off people. But either way, this is, in my opinion, the same guy, and they traded a whole lot for him, and they lost a lot of money in the process.
I just think he's a tougher dude. Like if Stafford plays in that Rams Super Bowl, the way everything played out, I think they have a good chance of winning that. That's the way I'm measuring it. If you put him on that team, I think the team really quit on Goff. I think Goff quit on the team, and then the team quit on him, and it hasn't really been the same. So like, I don't know that they might be the same style of player. I think I agree with you there, but I think he's just a tougher dude. He's the guy I'd want in the foxhole if you're giving me one of the two. Rob, go ahead.
Just a couple quick points. I mean, he's getting out of the NFC West. We're gonna see, being a Niners fan myself, we're gonna see Matthew Stafford. We're not gonna see a Jared Goff anymore. The Niners did beat the Rams twice this last season, going only 6-10.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that's just one thing to really stand out as a Niners fan this season, even though they're not going back to the Super Bowl. No one thought they were going to be favorites. Jimmy G, is that average guy. And that's what they're going to look at as Matthew Stafford. He's just going to be that average guy in the NFC West. He's not going to stand out. But could we just say Jared Goff played with a bad thumb and still beat, the Seahawks, where Russell Wilson was having a great season?
He had screws in his thumb. Maybe I'm not giving him enough credit for being tough. I think I can walk back a little bit of it. That's right. You know what? That's a great point.
Yeah. Can we just say that out loud?
That's true.
He won a playoff game. He wasn't even starting.
Yeah.
He wasn't even supposed to play in that game. And Jared Goff came in, didn't complain, got the win. I mean, they had to run the football a lot, but he did throw a touchdown pass in that game. And Jalen Ramsey came up clutch, got the pick 6 against Seattle, made Russell Wilson look like a fool. And they were the better team in that game.
Yeah. Hey, listen,
so we're really going to say, and Nick's right, they gave up so much for basically the same exact thing, and they went to the Super Bowl in 2018, and they have a way better team now. And you're really just going to give up on Goff. And now, what is it? The Rams, I think Nick Rice made this point, and we talked a little bit beforehand. They're going to pay him $22 million for Goff to play in Detroit, and they're going to have Stafford and just give up all those picks. It's like, come on, man. You could have done so much better. I think they gave up way too much. I think the Rams, okay, here's my prediction. Niners do better than the Rams. Doesn't matter who's that quarterback. That's my prediction. I think Matthew Stafford, you're a great quarterback, but Goff had way more playoff experience. He knows what it takes to get back to a Super Bowl. And if I hope Detroit does better than the Rams and makes a point that Detroit won that trade.
As far as the Niners go, I think as long as whoever their quarterback is healthy for 16 games, the Niners are going to do way better. That's my quick prediction on that. But I'm not here to be right. I'm just here to get it right. And that is very good points on Jared Goff. Maybe he's tougher than I'm giving him credit for. I'm just picturing the guy that wilted in the Super Bowl. Maybe I haven't gotten past that yet. And you know what? This could actually be, not to try to, stride the fence here, but this could be a situation where both guys benefit from just a change of scenery. It's amazing what that can do for a player, let alone a quarterback sometimes. Maybe just new coaches, new players, new atmosphere, new locker room. Granted, it's a lot easier to go from Detroit to LA than it is LA to Detroit as far as the city you're about to live in. But it'll be interesting to see how that works, and that's something we'll revisit in the future. Before we get out of here, because the clock is ticking down, we're recording this on February 4th. So I just have to mention, you guys might have already seen the hat. It's not only because it's Super Bowl season. Today is the 3-year anniversary of the Eagles' first Super Bowl win in franchise history when we took down Brady and the Pats and won one of these bad boys. So I want to end the day. Right. I want to end the show on that. And, while the team's in disarray, we'll talk about it more in the future. I will take a couple years of travesty for what that night gave us 3 years ago. So everyone enjoy the Super Bowl. Rob, Nick, thanks again for being here. And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening.